promised, like I promised in the summer, I'm showing you guys how to dehydrate something. And I've got chili here that I made. And there's two ways you can go about making it into camping food. You can just make a pot of chili and dehydrate it and rehydrate it. You've got chili. Or you could do what I did in my other chili video, is I put together all the dehydrated parts and made chili from all different dehydrated things. This way is probably much easier. So I made a batch of chili the other night and I had a whole bunch of leftovers. So now I'm going to dehydrate them so I have camping food. And I'll show you how to do that. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that it's at temperature. So if it's cold and you're putting it in the food dehydrator, the amount of time the food dehydrator is going to take to heat up the food, it's going to be a really long time in what is called as the danger zone. The danger zone is from 4 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius, where the growth of bacteria is accelerated. So starting it off with hot food in the dehydrator is a way to avoid that. I'm just going to put in some corn chips. I just crushed them up, and what I'm doing this for is to help soak up some of the moisture that's in the chili, and I'm hoping that when I make the chili it'll help to thicken the sauce a bit. But, you know, this is an experiment. I'm more of a learn as you go. But I'll let you guys know what the outcome is like. So I'm going to mix that in. And I'm going to let that sit for a couple of minutes for the chips to soften up and soak up all the juice. And then I'm going to put it in the dehydrator. And if you don't have tortilla chips to crush up, you can use potato chips, you can use breadcrumbs. You could probably even use instant potato flakes, just anything to suck up the juice, shredded bread, it all would work. Okay, so you're going to want to use your leather making sheets. If you don't have any, like my dehydrator didn't come with them, so I managed to find at I think a dollar store, it was these reusable baking sheet liners. So I just cut them out. And you want to, if you're doing that, you're going to need to leave, you know, space on the outside for the air to get through and space in the middle. So I left, you know, appropriate gapping for it. So, you just spread it out as thinly and as evenly as possible. And if you notice that you've got, you know, like a big chunk, just break it apart. Now, you can, you know, using this method, you could, you know, pretty much do anything. You could do curry or stew, so long as, you know, the pieces are small enough. You know, if you have like big chunks of meat like that, it's not going to work. So what else? I'm going to try doing curry one day. I think I've got some in my freezer that I can heat up and dehydrate for camping next year. Especially since my father can't eat it because he's allergic to coconut, and I put coconut milk in it. You could even do this with like chili from a can, or canned food. Just heat it up, put it through the dehydrator, and, you know, bring it camping. But, you know, homemade's better. So like all the little tortilla chips I put in are all soft now with all the juice. And one thing I forgot to mention before, while I was letting it sit and letting the tortilla chips absorb all the liquid, I started the dehydrator. It's always good to preheat it first. Get going with the trays that you're using with the lid on. So once you get it all spread out like that, we're ready for the next step. Okay, so I put all the trays on, and mine you kind of have to turn it to have them all lock into place. And mine didn't come with a temperature control, although I had a friend fix it up, or rather my boyfriend fixed it. And I'm giving it a test, but there's holes in here. It's like a vent, and that's how you're supposed to control the temperature. But I find my machine scorches things. So I'm going to start it off on high for maybe a couple hours, and then I'm going to turn it down onto half speed. The drier things get, the less likely bacteria can grow in there. So I'm going to start it off on high, which I read at about between 60 and 70 degrees Celsius. And once it dries out, I'll turn it down so it doesn't scorch the food, but it'll still be safe. So I'll come back in a couple hours. I'll probably break everything apart, scatter it, redistribute it on the mat, and see if it's ready to turn it down. It's been about 4 hours later, and not as much progress as I was thinking. The top is a bit dry, but the bottom is still really moist, so it's going to break it all up and give it a bit of a mix and put it back to dry. I also put, I have 5 trays for this. I put the extra trays in between each layer just to give it a little bit more air circulation. I don't know if it's going to help, but it's worth a try. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to leave it on this temperature. It's still too moist for me to feel comfortable putting it on half heat. And I'll check it in the morning when I get up. Well, this has been drying overnight. Well, dried overnight. And you can see it's all crumbly and it sounds dry. It's very hard. It's crunchy. So once it's like this, you can just put it into Ziploc bags and put it in the freezer, and it'll last pretty much forever. This is really cool. I tried it. I just ate some pieces, and it's pretty good. So not only does this work for like a rehydrated meal, I mean, you can just eat it, like you would trail mix. So for emergency situations, or if you're really hungry on a portage or something, you can just eat this and it'll be some good energy.